Elena Cortez folded her scrub top with the same precision she used to fold a tourniquet package. Corners even, edges tight, no wasted motion. It was a habit that had followed her out of a war zone and into the sterile hallways of Mercy Presbyterian Hospital, where for the last 3 years she had worked as a surgical nurse in the trauma bay, saying little, working fast, and drawing no attention to herself. That was exactly how she wanted it. Today, that anonymity had cost her. Dr. Richard Halden stood in the doorway of the break room, arms crossed, his white coat pressed and his voice already rising before Elena had finished packing the small cardboard box the HR assistant had handed her 20 minutes earlier. "You second-guessed my order in front of the entire team," he said, "in the middle of a code. Do you understand what that does to a surgeon's authority in that room?" Elena did not look up. She placed a photo of her late father, a photo she rarely let anyone see, gently into the box. "I understood the patient was bleeding out from the wrong side," she said quietly. "I called it because someone had to. The trauma had come in 40 minutes earlier, a 26-year-old construction worker with a steel rod through his abdomen, blood pressure crashing, the kind of case that either makes a career or ends one. Dr. Halden had called for a left-side approach. Elena, watching the monitors, watching the patient's coloring, watching the wound track with an eye trained by 3 combat deployments as a Navy corpsman before nursing school, had said one sentence. "Sir, the trajectory says right lobe, not left. You'll miss the bleed." He had ignored her. 90 seconds later, with the patient's pressure dropping into the 60s, he had reversed course and gone right. The bleed was exactly where Elena said it would be. The patient lived. Dr. Halden's ego did not survive the humiliation of being corrected by a scrub nurse in front of 2 residents and an attending surgeon from cardiology who happened to be observing. "I run that or," he said now, his voice tight with the particular fury of a man who has never once been wrong in his own mind. "Nurses do not diagnose. Nurses do not call trajectories. You embarrassed me, and worse, you undermine the chain of command that keeps patients safe. HR has your final paperwork. Security will walk you out." Elena finally looked at him, and something in her gaze made him take half a step back, though he would never have admitted it. It was not anger. It was the flat, unbothered calm of someone who had been screamed at by men far more dangerous than Richard Halden and had outlived every one of them. "You saved a family today," she said. "You just don't know why yet." He scoffed and walked out, already composing the version of this story he would tell at the surgeon's lounge. The walk through the hospital lobby felt longer than it should have. Elena carried the box past the front desk, past the gift shop, past the wall of photographs honoring hospital donors and board members, none of whom had ever set foot in a trauma bay at 3 a.m. Nobody looked twice at her. That was the strange mathematics of her life. For 6 years she had been trained to be invisible, to move through chaos without drawing fire, to save lives without anyone ever learning her name. The Navy had made her that way on purpose. 2 tours as a combat medic attached to a special operations element. 1 classified operation in a valley whose name would never appear in any museum, and a set of ribbons locked in a safe deposit box that she had not opened since her discharge ceremony. She had never told a single coworker at Mercy Presbyterian. Not because she was ashamed, because she had learned painfully that when people found out what she had done overseas, they stopped seeing her as a colleague and started seeing her as a story, and Elena had never wanted to be a story. She wanted to be useful. Quietly, permanently useful. She reached the glass doors of the main entrance and paused, adjusting her grip on the box, when the doors on the far side of the lobby opened and the temperature of the room seemed to change. 6 men in dark suits entered first, scanning the space with the practiced economy of Secret Service or Executive Protection Detail, and behind them came a man in dress blues, for silver stars gleaming on each shoulder, a chest of ribbons that told the story of 40 years in uniform. General Marcus Whitfield had not set foot in a public hospital lobby in over a decade without a full security package, and yet here he was, walking directly toward the reception desk with the unmistakable bearing of a man executing a mission rather than paying a social visit. Conversations in the lobby died. Even the gift shop cashier stopped mid-transaction. A 4-star general did not simply appear at a mid-sized city hospital on a Tuesday afternoon. He stopped at the front desk and asked a question the receptionist would later describe as the strangest of her career. I'm looking for a nurse named Elena Cortez. I was told she works trauma. Is she on shift? The receptionist, flustered, glanced past him toward the doors, where a woman in plain clothes was standing frozen with a cardboard box in her arms, and pointed. That's her, sir. Right there. General Whitfield turned. For a moment, the hospital lobby, the fluorescent lighting, the antiseptic smell, the whole ordinary machinery of Tuesday afternoon medicine seemed to fall away, and there was only a 4-star general looking across the room at a woman who had spent the morning being told she was not good enough to hold a suction tube. His eyes found the box in her arms, then her face, and something in his expression shifted from formal to something almost paternal, almost proud. "Petty Officer Cortez," he said, his voice carrying easily across the lobby, though he had not raised it. "Or should I say, Chief?" Elena set the box down slowly on the nearest chair, her hands not quite steady for the first time all day. Dr. Halden, who had followed her into the lobby to make certain security actually removed her from the premises, stood rooted near the elevator bank, his mouth slightly open, watching a 4-star general of the United States Army walk across a hospital lobby toward the woman he had just fired. General Whitfield closed the distance between them in a dozen unhurried strides, and as he did, every eye in the lobby tracked him, including the 2 hospital administrators who had emerged from a side office at the sound of the commotion and now stood frozen, uncertain whether they were witnessing a security incident or something else entirely. He stopped 3 feet from Elena, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Then, without a word of preamble, without acknowledging the box on the chair or the security guard hovering awkwardly nearby, General Marcus Whitfield came to attention and raised his hand in a slow, deliberate salute. The lobby went silent in a way that felt almost physical. A janitor stopped his mop mid-stroke. A woman waiting with a toddler pulled the child closer, sensing without understanding that something significant was happening. Dr. Halden felt his stomach drop through the floor, because in 30 years of medicine he had learned to recognize the specific silence that surrounds a moment nobody in the room fully understands yet, and every instinct told him this silence was about to become very personal. Elena straightened instinctively, old muscle memory taking over before her conscious mind caught up, and returned the salute crisply, her spine snapping into a posture that had nothing to do with hospital training and everything to do with 6 years of a life she had buried beneath scrubs and shift schedules. "At ease, Chief," the general said, lowering his hand, and then, turning slightly so his voice carried to the gathered crowd without shouting, he continued. 3 years ago, in a valley whose name most of you will never hear, a 12-man special operations element was ambushed at 0400 hours. We took 4 casualties in the first 90 seconds, 2 of them critical. Our medic was one of the wounded. What happened next is classified in most of its detail, but I can tell you this much. A Navy corpsman named Elena Cortez, herself bleeding from shrapnel in her left shoulder, moved under direct enemy fire to stabilize 3 men, performed a field cricothyrotomy in the dark using a pen casing when her kit was destroyed, and carried a 200-pound Green Beret 200 meters to the extraction point on her own back. All 4 of those men are alive today. One of them is my son. A collective breath moved through the lobby, the kind of sound a room makes when it realizes it has been standing next to something extraordinary without knowing it. Dr. Halden's face had gone the color of the walls. General Whitfield reached into his jacket and withdrew a small navy blue case, opening it to reveal a medal that needed no explanation to anyone who had spent time around the military. The pale blue ribbon dotted with stars, the bronze star at its center. The Medal of Honor citation for Chief Petty Officer Elena Cortez was approved 8 months ago, he said. She has refused every formal ceremony we've offered her. Said she didn't want the attention. Said she just wanted to go back to work helping people. So today, since she won't come to Washington, Washington came to her. He paused, looking directly at Elena, his voice softening. I heard from a colleague that you had a rough morning here. I thought maybe today of all days, you shouldn't have to walk out that door without knowing who's walking behind you. Elena's composure, forged in far worse circumstances than a hospital lobby, finally cracked, her eyes bright as she looked at the medal she had spent 8 months avoiding. I told them I didn't need a ceremony, sir, she said quietly. I just needed a job. The general smiled, the kind of smile that belonged to a man who had watched this particular soldier's stubbornness save lives more than once. Then let's fix that, he said, and turned toward the two administrators still frozen by the side office, who suddenly found themselves the focus of a four-star general's attention. I understand there was a personnel decision made this morning regarding Chief Cortez. I'd be very interested to hear the medical reasoning behind overruling a combat medic's trauma assessment, if there was any. The hospital's chief administrator, a woman named Patricia Kwan who had spent the last hour blissfully unaware any of this was unfolding, stepped forward with the practiced calm of someone whose entire career depended on damage control. And it took her exactly 4 minutes of quiet, urgent conversation with Dr. Halden to determine that the termination would be immediately reviewed, which everyone in that lobby understood to mean reversed before the end of the day. Dr. Halden, for his part, said nothing further. He simply stood there, a surgeon who prided himself on never being wrong, absorbing the fact that he had fired a Medal of Honor recipient for correctly diagnosing a bleed he himself had missed, and that a four-star general had personally witnessed it. Elena did not gloat. She never did. Instead, she knelt down, picked up her small cardboard box from the chair, and set it back on the nurse's station counter, unopened. General Whitfield watched her do it, and something like respect passed across his weathered face, the respect of one professional recognizing another. You could have led with the medal this morning, he said quietly, just to her. Would have saved you the box. Elena allowed herself a small, tired smile, the first genuine one all day. Wouldn't have been the same job if I did, sir, she said. I didn't earn that medal to use it as a shield. I earned it so I could keep doing this quietly. The general nodded slowly, understanding a kind of humility that medals are never actually given for, but that makes the people who deserve them worth honoring in the first place. As he turned to leave, flanked once more by his security detail, he paused at the door and looked back at the lobby full of people who would tell this story for years. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet, he said, are the ones who never told you what they survived to get here. If a story like Elena's moved you today, hit subscribe and stay close, because the hidden nurse has more of them. Coming, real courage hiding in plain sight, waiting for the moment the truth finally salutes back.